Hello, good morning, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Joey, and I am an indie author and freelancer. And it is Monday morning, and it is my great return to the vlog, and we are going to attempt to get my life in order. We have plans. We have an intention. I need to get a look at what I need to invoice. I need to go through my emails and answer those. I need to plan out my content for the week, and I am outlining a new project, which I'm very excited about. I've had a lot of people ask. For those of you that don't know, I had a book release at the beginning of this month called Not So Much. It is a companion to my first book, Yeah Maybe. It is technically a sequel, however, I believe it could also stand on its own too. Like, I don't think that you would have had to read Yeah Maybe to understand Not So Much. And given that Not So Much is set in college, whereas Yeah Maybe is set as a freshman in high school, obviously it appeals to a different reader. I think it's cute to read it from one to the next, but I've had a lot of questions since Not So Much was released if I'm going to be releasing anything else in that series. And I hadn't really intended to, aside from potentially, like, I was considering maybe doing like a novella coming, you know, from college to like where things go after that. But I've had an idea, and we're gonna explore that idea, and I will take you along with me as we navigate what that's gonna look like, because I honestly, it's too soon for me to say anything as far as like anything solid, because that's how book ideas happen for me anyway, is that they just kind of like wiggle into the back of my mind, and then I have to sort of like explore to find out, is there anything real here, or what am I working with here? So that's what we're gonna do this week. Also, I am so tired. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of running lately, which is fun, but I've woken up this morning and I'm like, am I sore and run down because I've been exercising, or am I getting the very first cold of the season? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know, but regardless, we're gonna get some planning done. We're gonna try to get a grip on what this week is gonna look like. Also, Campbell says good morning. Good morning. You good boy. For book projects, I don't know that I have a typical, because I only have 2 books out. With Yeah Maybe, okay, sorry, the dog had to go outside. But for Yeah Maybe, how did I do this? So I knew I wanted to write a book, didn't specifically know what I wanted the book to be about. I initially thought that Yeah Maybe would be a 4-part series following the characters through each year. So basically what I did was I created a town, I created the characters, and I knew that it would be freshman year, right? Like I knew that it was the timeline of like one school year. And so I had that timeline to kind of follow, which is pretty straightforward. You know kind of what's gonna happen throughout a school year. And I basically, the way that I used to say it, which makes me sound a little bit crazy, but I basically would sit down to write. I would put the characters at the time of year that they needed to be in at the time, and in different situations that would come up throughout a high school year, and they basically just told me the story. And my first draft of Yeah Maybe was actually very, very different than the released published copy. How did that go? So I wrote the book from about November until March. So November of 2009 to March of 2010. And I basically just wrote a chapter a week, and usually all on Sundays, because I was working full time at the time, and then Sundays were like my day to just fully write. And once it was done, I never touched it again. And several years later, I just got this like little feeling in the back of my mind. I'm like, I should just publish it. And I was reading a book book at the time that basically made me have like a full-blown breakdown. And then I was like, my book isn't good enough. It's just not interesting. It's very poorly done. And I was inspired to do like a complete overhaul. And I truly wish I could tell you how it became the book that it currently is, but I really don't know. And I realize that might sound really frustrating, but I just had to trust my instincts, my characters, and God or the universe or whatever you believe in. And there was no planning. Like there was no like, oh, I know this is gonna happen and I know that is gonna happen. That's not how that went at all. That book was a true product of trusting instinct. And I'm really proud of it. I think it turned out really good, especially considering it was my first project ever. The feedback that I've received on it is so astonishingly positive that it was the validation I feel like a lot of indie authors need that we obviously don't have from the backing of a traditional publisher, is just to know that like the one thing that matters the most to me is to write stuff that people can relate to or can see themselves in, or that makes them feel a certain way. Hold please, the dog is back. And I can say with like pure certainty that yeah, maybe does that. Like yeah, maybe checked all those boxes. Now I know it's not going to be for everybody. It's, you know, it's definitely speaking to an audience of people who like contemporary young adult, who perhaps went through some stuff in high school. Maybe they weren't the most popular person in the world, or they had family issues going on that they were trying to balance while they were in high school. But I have found from the reviews that so many people, regardless of their age, regardless of what genre they typically like to read, have been able to really find themselves in the story of Yeah Maybe, which is really comforting and fun and exciting. And I'm so proud of what that has accomplished. Not so much the planning process was a little bit different because I knew the structure of the book was going to be that she was a freshman in college, and I knew that I needed to be able to reveal the story of what had happened from sophomore year to freshman year of college with the characters that you all know and love from Yeah Maybe, but I also knew she needed to be experiencing something as a freshman in college that she was also working through. And so I knew the structure of the story. I knew that it was going to be set in a bar. I knew kind of where it was going to be, but that story gave me a lot of trouble. And I actually wrote the initial draft of Not So Much in 30 days back in 2018. And that was really lucky because when everything happened earlier this year and people started to ask if there would be a sequel to Yeah Maybe, I wasn't starting from scratch, which was really great because I don't know that I could have released a book in September having only just lost my job like basically the 1st of March, because I lost my job on the last day of February. That was a really, maybe not for some people, but for me, that was a very quick turnaround. Because you have to, I mean, people that don't do this full-time don't really know what all goes into the back end of releasing a book, but it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna write a book and then release it out into the world. There's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes, which if you're watching this, you probably know that. Or maybe you're just curious about that and you'd like to learn about it, which is what you'll find out watching these videos. But luckily I had about 50,000 words of a draft already done when I lost my job in February. And I had actually made the decision in about this time last year. I was starting to get the feeling that I really wanted to return to writing. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. And I have a friend who's a writer, and I confessed to her, I'm like, I am making the official decision. I am shelving and walking away from the whole Yeah Maybe series. Like we're going to just walk away from that. It's going to be a one book standalone. Like we're shelving that project because I felt like it was holding me back, because I was very excited about working on other projects, but I just felt like unfinished business, right? So I needed to make like this official decision that I was walking away. Well, I did, but then I never did anything else. Like it's not like I made that official decision and then started working on another project. I basically just abandoned writing altogether. And so I do really believe that like what happened in February was divine in a way, because it really like thrusted me back into the world that I wanted to be in, which is writing and publishing and being here on the internet and all of that. So I was in a very fortunate situation when people started to ask about a sequel, that I had the bones of one there. And if you're not familiar, Not So Much is set up in a then and now format. And so you kind of flip back and forth between two different stories that are happening at the same time. And so one of the storylines is where Annie is now. One of the storylines is the story of then, like sophomore year, junior year, senior year, summer, etc. Like all of the things that she's experienced between the last time you saw her and where she is now. And when it came to revising this work, I kept mostly everything in the then section. Like the then section was primarily written in 2018. Everything in the now section is new. Literally everything in the now section is new. And that took a lot of, I'm gonna be very frank, like I struggled hard with this book. I think it was mostly just because I was also internally going through some stuff, because I had just been like through the rigor as far as like life is concerned, as a breadwinning mom losing her job. Suddenly the internet is here and they're like, write more books, and it's the best thing ever, but it's also the scariest thing ever because there's all this pressure on you, and it's just, there's a lot going on. It was amazing, and do not get me wrong, like I am eternally grateful for that whole experience. Like, and I wish I could live every single day for the rest of my life feeling exactly that same way, because it was just, I wish, I'm gonna get emotional if I think too much about it, but like, it was what dreams were made of, literally what dreams were made of. But there was a lot of pressure on this story, and I struggled with it. I did. And I am proud of what has come out of it. I'm very happy with that book. But again, there was very little planning, and there were so many times where I was like writing the project where I was like, I just wish, if this is your first time ever tuning in for a video, I am not a stranger to like working for myself. I'm not a stranger to like self-made deadlines or anything like that. However, the difference is I'm a mom now. I'm a mom, and I'm the primary caregiver to my son, and he only just started preschool like 2 weeks ago. So before 2 weeks ago, he was home with me all day, every day. He's almost 2 years old, and I was trying to work around all of that. And if you're a parent, you know, as much as you want to plan something, as much as you think you know how your day is going to go, there are about 1 billion different ways that your day can go sideways. And aside from just like actual things happening that derail you, there's also, for me anyway, I don't know if this is for other people, like emotional things that can derail you, especially when you're doing creative work, where sometimes a toddler can just completely take it out of you, where like you sit down at your computer and you're like, I'm empty. There's nothing here. And so there were so many times that I was working on Not So Much that I wish when I would sit down and have like a pocket of time, because that's really how that book got done, was just like in little pockets of time here and there. I wished so much that when I sat down to work at a computer that I knew exactly what I needed to be doing, so that I could take out the element of having to like think about what to do next. And that's just not how that book was structured at all. And it's not typically how I work. So all of that was a lot of words to set up what I'm about to say, which is I'm gonna try something different where this pantser is going to try to become a plotter or a planner. And I have a project, like the structure of a project started to be mapped out, which is very different for me. And I'm very excited about it. I think those of you who love Yeah Maybe are going to be very excited about it. I don't know why it's never occurred to me to do this before. And I have decided to use the 7-point story structure for this book, mostly just to give myself the guiding posts that I need. So I don't typically, obviously I've just told you this, that like I don't normally plan things out, I don't normally plot things out. However, I do, once the draft is done, I do kind of run it against some type of plotting structure, just to make sure that like, I mean, if you're a writer, you know, like there are current, like there's a structure to a story in order to take a reader through a journey, and you want to make sure that you're hitting those points, right? And that you're able to like make sure the pacing is correct and all of that kind of stuff. And a story structure can really help you as a guiding post for those things. I just typically use them more in like the revising process than I did in the beginning. This time we're going to do it from the beginning. So I am using, right now I'm using Evernote, which I've used a million times in the past for different business things, but I've never used it to like outline a book. And I do have Scrivener, and I will probably eventually eventually import this breakdown into Scrivener, but for right now, I'm just using literally one note in Evernote, and I am putting everything that I can think of in this note, from where are they, who's there, what's happening. I have like a checklist of like things that I need to do as far as like actual tasks that need to happen before I sit down and actually write this draft. And that can look like anything. So like I have a character that's coming into this book that was in Not So Much, but he wasn't fully developed as far as like he's gonna have a more main role in this book. So I need to like fully develop him. I also need to develop another character that has been present for all of the books, but she is taking on a different role in this story. And another thing is like there's a character in this book that has a very specific like personality trait. And so I have like the breakdown of what I need to research as far as understanding how that person would operate based on that information. And then I also have the 7-point story structure in there, and I'm making sure like as I'm outlining and like thinking through the structure of this story that I have an answer to all of the different 7 points, right? And if you're unfamiliar with the 7-point story structure, it's basically like you have the hook, and then you have like the plot turn 1, which is like the inciting incident, right? Like it's the thing that like suddenly there's change. You end up having the pinch point 1, which is like what applies a little bit, sorry, my notifications keep going off. It adds like a little bit more pressure to the antagonist, kind of ups the ante a little bit. And then you end up at the midpoint, which is typically when the main character responds with some type of action, right? Like they're fired up, they're doing some stuff. Then you end up with the pinch point number 2, which is usually the thing that like changes everything for the character, right? Like it adds additional pressure to the character based on like the goal that they have. This thing kind of like just fully derails them or could potentially fully derail them. Plot turn number 2, which is usually when the book turns towards resolution, right? Like that's when the character comes up with the plan. They have everything that they need to be able to start working towards the resolution, and then you have the resolution. So that's the structure that I'm using. It's actually the structure that I had with Not So Much as well, but just not until the end. Like that was one of the parts of my revision process, was implementing that structure into the book. But this time around, we're working through that. So that's something that I've been working on like the last couple of days, but it is my goal to have it done. My goal was by tomorrow. So it's the 25th. My goal was to have the outline done by tomorrow. I also wanted to have my character development pretty well off before tomorrow as well, because then on the 27th is when I have it scheduled to like start really writing this project. So that's what we're working on. And now it is literally time. I need to get ready and I need to get my son's lunch prepped and all that kind of stuff. So let's make that happen. Okay, so we've had a bit of a change in plans for today. I did not go to the coffee shop that I normally go to work after I do drop off, because my mom actually just arrived home from a vacation. She was texting, she was supposed to come home last night and the flight got booted or whatever, and so she was coming home this morning and she was just letting us know that she was back in town and that she was going to call an Uber. And I was like, I'm literally like about to drop Wade off. Like once I've dropped Wade off, I could just come and pick you up from the airport. As long as you don't mind hanging out for a hot minute, like I can come get you. So just dropped her off, which honestly at this point I'm probably gonna have about an hour that I can maybe get some focus work done. But I'll take the hour. I will very gladly take the hour. And yeah, that's why this is balancing all the things, because you know, I do consume other people's content, and I love watching like other people who are chasing their dreams and like doing the entrepreneur thing and all that, which used to be me back in the day too. And it's all hard. Please don't get me wrong. Like, no matter what stage of life you're in, doing your own thing is hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. If it was, everybody would be doing it. But I do find that making it work in this season of life, when there's external responsibilities, like obviously like my mother, she's, you know, older, and I have my son, we have the house, we have the dogs, the cats, all of the things, and with those things come additional responsibilities. It just means sometimes your day does not look how you think it's going to look, and trying to fit all the pieces together and still like take care of yourself and get enough sleep and, you know, do all of those things. It's tricky, but not impossible, just tricky. Okay, we're gonna see how well this works out, because I have you balancing, and as you can see, I have furry friends. Yes, I am in bed. It is 7:56 and I am already in bed. I'm not going to sleep quite yet. I was actually supposed to do a workout tonight, but I think I mentioned earlier, like I couldn't tell if I'm sore from working out or if I'm getting that like beginning of a cold feeling. It's too close for comfort. So I'm gonna give myself the evening to rest, and we'll pick back up with the workouts tomorrow. Instead, I'm going to plan our meals for the week, because the day just did not go how I intended or expected. It just fully derailed. Not in a bad way, it just, things happened. I don't know if this is boring to anybody. I really appreciate when people share this kind of stuff because it helps me. Sorry, this dog is insane. Hello. You need to lay down. Okay, Okie. He's actually insane. So tonight we did ravioli and meatballs, mostly because the ground beef that I was going to use, I did not use it in time, and it was too far past its expiration date for comfort for me. And I was starving when I got home, and I had meatballs, we had ravioli, I had sauce. I just threw that together for dinner. Tomorrow, what do I have in the fridge right now? So I did the meatballs. Okay, so tomorrow, Friday is always pizza, and I make pizzas at home. Tomorrow we can do these pork chop bites with green beans and cauliflower mash. So pork chop and cauli. I do it in my paper planner first, and then I add it to my digital calendar just so I can easily reference it. Last week I didn't do that. I only put it in my paper planner, and it went sideways pretty fast because I'd forgotten what we were supposed to be having. Wednesday I was supposed to have book club, but it got moved to next week. So I do these things, I don't know if you guys have a Mongolian restaurant near you called Crazy Fire. We haven't been since before the pandemic, but last week, 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a situation with the ground beef yet again where it was getting too close to the expiration date, and I had to use it really quickly, and I didn't have a whole lot of time, so I just like hodgepodged this meal together. And as I was serving it to my husband, I was like, okay, so this is either going to be amazing or totally terrible. There's really no way to tell until we try it. And it actually turned out really good. And it was ground beef, onions, mushrooms, garlic, onion, seasoning, salt, pepper, and then I added half a packet of au jus seasoning with a little bit of water and let that stir up. And then I made cauliflower rice on the side, but I make my cauliflower rice, like I saute it in a pan so it like roasts up, like almost like toasts up. It's so good. It gets like a little bit of like a nutty flavor. And then I just served that like ground beef mixture over the cauliflower rice. And when I went to go try it, I was like, this actually really tastes like something I would have made at Crazy Fire. So now we call them Crazy Fire bowls, and it is going to be in our regular rotation because they're super easy to make, super quick to make, and really delicious. And fairly high, like score pretty high on the macros too, which is awesome. So now we're looking at Thursday. I could do, let's do shrimp Caesar wraps maybe. And with that, we could do, let's be crazy and have regular french fries. Let's do french fries with that, and then fruit. And then for Wade, what I would do with that, Wade is 2 or almost 2. I would just give him cut up shrimp and fruit and probably like sweet potato tots or something. Saturday is a home football game. Let's do chicken tacos because that I can make in the Instant Pot while we're gone. So chicken tacos. Oaken, why does it sound like you're chewing something? Oaken, here. Okay, so chicken tacos. With that, I do my chicken tacos in the Instant Pot. I do chicken breasts with chicken broth, ranch packet seasoning, and chicken taco seasoning. Pressure cook it for 20 minutes, but then I let it like release steam on its own, and then I literally let it sit all day, and then shred it up in the Instant Pot, and then I serve that with the Mission's Zero tortillas, and I found cauliflower tortilla chips, and then I might make the viral TikTok queso, which is really good, but also sometimes I just really want regular queso, and so sometimes we just have regular queso, and that's okay. I also use Greek yogurt for sour cream, and I do use the what is the name of the taco sauce that like everybody and their mother uses? Ortega. I was like embarrassing for a second. The Ortega taco sauce. So, and then Sunday I will do cauliflower gnocchi with meatballs and sauce and a salad. So that is meals planned. Now I need to add those things to the grocery list and then place my Instant Cart order. I do some of it from Aldi and some of it from, I guess this time I'm gonna have to do probably Food Lion. It might end up needing to be Target, Food Lion, and Aldi, but that's okay. Oh, I love you, Jews. It's okay. I'm just going to probably read the rest of the afternoon or the rest of the evening before I fall asleep, and then I'll place my Instant Cart order tomorrow morning. I do need to add these into my calendar. I think that's actually going to be it for today's vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye!